Yo, 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 yo. It's the Copper Color King, man. We back in this bad boy with some more good content. And today, man. See, my mom's told me not to do this today. You know, because it's for the kids, you know. The holidays, it's for the children. Don't spoil it for the children. Mom's told me not to do this today, but I feel the need. Like, I got this message from the Most High himself to spread the word of misinformation. They got us out here celebrating a day that's dedicated to witches, demons, and demigods. And that's the truth and nothing but the truth. And you know what? I see I got a lot of people tuning in on TikTok. Yeah, y'all know it's that smoke. It's that smoke now, man. Pull up to the YouTube, man. Copper Color King. We about to go crazy. But yeah, man, the truth is, it's a holiday that's dedicated to witches, demons, and demigods. This is nothing that young children should be outside celebrating, let alone grown-ass adults. And no shade. You know, I see a lot of old heads outside, a lot of adults, people in their 40s, dressing up, specifically the women, dressing up like they 14, 15 years old. Like, what world are we living in? If the Most High was to come back today, all of you mother lovers would be dead. And this is the truth, right? Because what you're technically doing is practicing that witchcraft or practicing that demonology. This is the truth. Now, I have an article that I brought to the channel today that I'm going to read from. As a matter of fact, just to show y'all, right, the truth about Halloween. Right. This is from the eternalcog.org. You know, authenticated source. Right. The Eternal Church of God. The Eternal Church of God. And what they're doing in this article is pretty much taking a deep dive back into the roots of the Halloween holiday. See, it's a lot of stuff that go with these things, right, that we don't understand. We will not be able to understand it. Why? Because, well, they've dumbed society down to the point to where we think is entirely about costumes and candy. Children shouldn't even be eating candy alone. What up, sis? What it do, chicken stew? We got you in the building. Oh, man, it's lit. Right? The sis in the building. I ain't see you in a long time. I hope all is well. I hope the hurricanes down there in Florida ain't affect y'all too much. Praying for the family. You know, I'm going to always keep y'all in my heart. Much support, much love to you. I still ain't getting no information for where I could send these coloring books. But it's all right, though. It's all right. New and improved. Speaking of, before we even go into that, right? out now on Amazon. We got 4 different copies. Right? The coloring book for the copper colored community. Right? The coloring book that's pretty much created to unite all copper colored people, all melanated people. We got the copper colorers, our loving companion coloring book. Right? This one was dedicated to my Yorkie Prince. And then we got the inventions, the copper color inventions part 1. And we got the 2.0. Right? 48 different inventions created by black people that you and your children may not know about. So go grab you some copper colors, man. I promise you will not be disappointed. I've even updated the cover, the work inside. You can even sign off, scan, follow the Instagram. All of that stuff is pretty dope. But yeah. So yes, they go into the history behind Halloween and pretty much why, yes, the Day of the Dead, why it's not something that's entirely set up for God-loving and God-fearing people to be following, to be worshiping. But before I go into that, I actually have a video that I want to play. And as we go through this video, I'm going to be making certain mentions to certain things, certain references, stuff that I've learned about throughout history, throughout time, things that come from the Roman Empire, things that may come from ancient Celtic civilizations, right? Ancient Gothic civilizations, people who literally sat in the dark and drank blood. Stuff like that. Literally, stuff like that. Now, for those who are tuned in, TikTok, YouTube, both, I got to get this YouTube viewership up, son. We got to get this YouTube viewership up to another level because this is information that a lot of people need to hear. I know it's a lot of people out there on the airwaves talking about this stuff, man, but who in the trenches really know about this stuff? Who deep in the trenches, like really out here learning about this stuff or even taking the time out to just read, let alone, right? So more or less, like I said, we're going to go into the video, buckle up. It's about to get a little bumpy. You're about to learn some things about some things. So let's check it out. See, I'm going to try to get it to where we not hearing none of that crazy music they got in their background.
Of ghosts, skeletons, black cats, witches on broomsticks, and little costume children scurrying about the neighborhood.
Trick or treat! Oh my goodness! Here. Who are you? Vampire. Dracula's wife.
While there are some people who may be concerned about the origins of Halloween and its focus on blood, death, horror, and the occult, to millions of youngsters across the nation, it has been adopted as a time to pursue scary fun. It is an opportunity to dress up in ghoulish or fanciful costumes, to engage in the fantasy of being a witch or a vampire, ghost, or devil. Eager trick-or-treaters solicit candy door to door or bob for apples at Halloween parties. Others brave haunted houses and horror movies.
See, if we were cognitively aware, dressing up as a witch, demon, a witch, or why would you want to live in the image of something so demonic, such as a witch or a demon? I mean, listen, I don't understand. I don't even understand the young cats today, right? They call themselves demons. I'm a demon. And then every girl refers to themselves as a witch. We're going to replace the W with a B. So it's like y'all speaking that stuff onto yourselves. And it's just so crazy to me because you don't understand systematically where it stems from. But let's continue, man. Let's continue.
Movie marathons, while the more daring visit cemeteries at midnight, play with Ouija boards, and hold seances
playing with Ouija boards
to contact spirits of the dead. One of the biggest promoters of Halloween is the public school system. School-sponsored Halloween-themed activities often include dances, costume contests, carnivals, and arts and crafts projects. Education officials admit that more effort is usually put into the celebration of Halloween than any other holiday, including Christmas and Easter.
Is the stimulation of a child's sense of fun and fear all there is to Halloween? Or is there more? For many entrepreneurs, Halloween is big business, a major promotional event used to bring in billions of dollars worth of revenue. In addition to the usual costumes of cartoon characters for children, a growing number of outlets are featuring more macabre and sinister creations for purchase. This one well-known department store chain will sell more than $500 million worth of Halloween paraphernalia this year. And that doesn't include revenue from the sales of trick-or-treat candy. Costume shops such as this one are able to stay in business year-round as a result of the tremendous sales and rentals they receive during the Halloween rush. Farmers also view Halloween with an eye toward making big...
That's another thing people don't understand, especially copper-colored people. Holidays is just another marketing scheme. Every holiday is projected onto our community so that we can spend more money. Granted, white people do too. I was driving in White Plains, New York. I do Instacart. And I've seen houses decked out in Halloween paraphernalia. We gonna call it paraphernalia. Decked out. So this is all just a scheme to get people to spend more money. Right? Put you in the spirit? Nah. Make you spend that bag. That's what it is. And then you ask yourself, right? I say specifically for people in my community and struggling communities, all that money you spend on the candy, why not buy real food? Real food and give that away. Or just keep it in the crib. Right? That money you spending on the candy is a waste. You wasting your bread. Your children's teeth are becoming rotten. Right? You got to take them to the dentist. If you don't got insurance, that costs the bag. Right? So just think about it. Right? It's living backwards, technically. You're living backwards. We supposed to be living to progress, right? That's what God wants us to do. He wants us to move forward in life in a better light. But when we indulge in holidays like Halloween and Christmas and Easter and whatever the case may be, we are going against his very word. And I promise y'all, ever since I stopped indulging in these holidays, I've saved more money, saved way more money, because I don't got to buy no Christmas gifts. I ain't got to buy no costumes. And I ain't got to go out to eat nowhere. Talking about Easter specifically. Right? We don't celebrate. Point is, do the right thing, man. Because none of this stuff here, we can consider to be morally correct. Let's continue.
Profits. Pumpkins are a traditional Halloween accessory used by households nationwide as jack-o'-lantern decorations. This one Southern California field of only 164 acres will yield nearly $250,000 to its owner.
Halloween is manipulated by the promoters of horror movies and videos as a major marketing opportunity. While horror films used to be synonymous...
Damn, what the hell did I just say? What did I just say? Tell me I'm lying. Somebody please strike me down if I'm capping. Let it rain if I'm capping. I'm telling y'all, a marketing scheme. Right? If you got a business, you know how to market. If you selling ghost costumes, right? Aren't you gonna appeal yourself to this specific holiday? Everybody has a niche. Right? Everybody has a niche. You gotta make your money back. Right? It's all entertainment at the end of the day. A circus.
With B movies and considered the conventional low-budget industry standby, Today, they account for nearly 20% of all of the revenue received by feature film producers and distributors. The success of the technical revolution in special effects has attracted serious film directors to produce well-crafted, elaborate horror productions. A recent visit to the Video Software Dealers Association exhibition in Las Vegas showed that the two biggest selling artistic genres were pornography and horror. Hollywood is continuing to capitalize on society's growing
The two biggest selling were pornography and horror.
The irony is
Haram.
that while these producers label such films as fun and make-believe, many of them hire practicing witches or Satanists as technical advisors who ensure the authentic reproductions and performances of rituals, sacrifices, spells, and curses.
People are so hyper during the day, they need to come home and watch something that's like totally unreal so they can release themselves from all the pressures. It's just the type of thing that makes you laugh and forget about life.
Over the last 2 decades, most horror films have become far more graphic in their depictions of violence and cruelty. Movies affect...
Somebody drop in the comments, what is so funny about blood, demons, witches, and Halloween? Who watches this stuff after a long day? You know what? Scratch that. Because I know girls who watch murder and killing, storytelling stuff on TV after a long day. And I always tell them, like, you know, it's something deep down inside you that really wants you to do that. And it's not your personal calling, right? And don't tell me, oh, I just like it. No, that's all demonic. It's a demonic calling, and that energy is transferring between yourself and what's on the television. Televise. Tell them lies. Tell them lies. What you see is what you perceive, is how you feel. This is why they put these things out on TV for people to watch. I don't watch horror movies. I don't get into stuff like that. I used to when I was little, and it would give me nightmares. And that's how I knew it was real. Because that's the Most High telling me that the demons are trying to attack me in my sleep. And I'm so like that I'm going to fight them every single time. But at a certain point, you can't win those battles. So that's why you have to cut the indulgence. You have to stop indulging. That's the only way to disconnect yourself from these evil spirits. I'm trying to tell you. Let's continue.
Affectionately known as splatter films, routinely detail torture and dismembering of bodies, drinking of blood, cannibalism, rape, and a host of other grotesque atrocities.
Well, we think it's pretty fun. A lot of people just like it because it's fun, it's wacko, it's not real, and so it's just the type of thing that people like to watch because you don't have to think reality when you watch it.
When it comes to gore or splatter or any other particular genres, the justification lies in our Constitution. I don't feel anybody has the right to tell me what I can or cannot watch.
Most of these films receive R ratings, which mean that children under 17 cannot view the film or rent the video without the accompaniment of an adult. Yet this precaution is seldom enforced, for 15 is the average age of those who see these films. While many producers claim that these gruesome spectaculars are merely fun and not dangerous to the psyche of our youth, many of the scenarios from the horror films are duplicated in copycat crimes which make for sensational headlines.
Big drop. Folks is watching these movies. Hold on. Before you start cooking, white lady. Folks is watching these movies, right, y'all? They watching these movies and then going out there and trying to physically reenact them. Now, this is the catch. This is why I always say what you see is your reality. The things you take in create your reality. Look at drill music, right? You got kids that don't come from a tough bone background in this world. Right? In their household, nobody's tough. The pops is day room. The moms is day room. The pops is day room. Everybody's day room. However, because he listening to that drill music, that glah glah boom. He think he could go outside and really get on that type of time, when it's really real life killers out there. But the only thing that creates that confidence in that individual is the stuff that he's taken in. So all of this stuff, right? It all boils down to one root. Is the demonic energy that comes from these messages. Let's continue. I can't wait to start reading the article.
Coven as a child by his grandfather and continued participating for many years. I recently asked Glenn about his involvement and the importance of Halloween to the occultist.
Well, my involvement
Somebody
in
listening to Thriller
satanic
outside.
worship was, I was involved in it as a child. Of course, I was a generational Satanist, what they call a generational Satanist, and what that means is that my family was involved in it and their family before them. Now, my earliest rememberings of Halloween and some of the things that were involved was, it was a very dark time for me as a child. It was something that I didn't enjoy.
Glenn, could you tell us about your involvement in any rituals at Halloween as a child?
There was another little girl that was involved in the occult with me, and her name was Becky. Now, Becky was a different type of child. She was blessed to be a sacrifice. I was being blessed to be a high priest, where she was being blessed and born into the coven there to be a sacrifice. Now, we were in a ritual where we were married together.
Do y'all hear what this man is saying?
To the beast. And me and the little girl were married together, and there was a lot of sexual abuse that took place, and a lot of blood that was spilt over us, joining us together.
When do Halloween rituals actually begin, and what is the ultimate purpose of Halloween?
Well, the ritual that I remember the most clearly began about the end of September. Me and the little girl, the one I mentioned named Becky, the abuse was very concentrated at that time. We were taken into several rooms where our clothing was removed.
Just wow,
we
sis.
spent the next couple of weeks in a kind of a shack where a lot of rituals went on, where a lot of animals were killed. They summoned Lucifer and his spirit to come and possess me, and so that I would be blessed to take over the position of the high priest at a certain point in time. Now, Halloween night, they had again put me and the little girl in the back of this van, and we again drove off, which seemed like for a long time. We were drugged once again, and we finally came to this stop. They took the little girl out and they left me in the van. I could hear a lot of commotion that was going on outside. People that were screaming and yelling, and this low murmuring and moaning noise that was going on, like some kind of a low chanting noise that was going on. So I knew in my mind there was some type of a ritual going on, because I'd heard that many times before. You know, it was real common to see people fall on the ground and convulse and go into convulsions during rituals and stuff with the demonic presence that were around. And finally, a woman came to the back of the van and she said, "It's time to go." And she brought me out of the van, and I could see that there was just a lot of people around. Some were dressed in dark brownish kind of robes with hoods over them. They took me up and they led me up to this stone altar. And I remember I saw the little girl, and she was on the altar. Now, at first, you know, I just wondered what was going on, because you never knew. I mean, they used the altar for a lot of different things. They could have just been sacrificing an animal over, could have been a sexual abuse from the high priest onto her. You know, it was a hard thing to know for sure. Well, they ushered me up to the altar, and I could see that they had bound her feet They had her feet spread apart, her legs, and they had bound them to the ends of the altar, and they had taken her arms, which were laying out this way, and roped them to the altar, which had little kind of like hooks, which they could bind the ropes around. And she was really white. I remember seeing her, and she was just real pale and real white. And I noticed that they had slit the bottoms of her feet and her wrists, and they were taking the blood that was running out of those areas and putting them into chalices and passing those cups around to different people who were partaking of her blood. Then the high priest, he took the athami, or the ritual knife, and he picked it up and he put my hand on it, and then he forced it into her chest. So when I think back on Halloween, you know, over that period of time that happened, you know, that was the climax event, Halloween night, where they killed that innocent little girl. And this is something that's happening every Halloween.
Yo,
that's not just an
every
isolated event.
Halloween.
There are children all over the world.
Yo,
who are
YouTube
losing
gonna
their
beef with
lives
me about this one, but
during
I don't
Halloween
care.
night.
It's alright.
And yet we, as a society, we go out and celebrate it, and we go door to door and we ask for candy, and it's a big celebration to us. And I think it's quite ironic how one group of people are thinking it's fun, and another group of people are taking human life, and yet they don't, you know, there seems to be this wall and nobody wants to face the facts of what's really going on.
Today, reports from all over the world show a growing concern over the mushrooming attraction towards the occult. Heinous crimes connected with the occult, according to police, are reaching epidemic proportions. Halloween is the time when community service organizations warn that children and animals are most likely to be abducted. To truly understand the significance of Halloween and its role in this mayhem, we must go back to its historic roots. What you are looking at are actual rituals and spells being performed by practicing witches and druids throughout America and Europe. These are not actors or reenactments. They are real.
Most of Halloween's customs are the remainders of...
Boy, they still doing that stuff till this day. And like Son said, you folks is going outside just having a jolly old good time with this, right? After hearing everything that brother just said, I would abolish the holiday completely. But they can't do that, right? They can't do that, right? They still got to make their money. And then these other groups of people still got to practice their rituals. And it's probably happening right next door to you.
Pagan superstition relating to Samhain, the Druidic New Year. The Druids were the influential priests, magicians and sorcerers of the nature religions that prevailed in early northern Europe. These native beliefs permeated Celtic culture for about 2,000 years, up until the introduction of Christianity. Today, a revival of the practices of Druidism, along with various forms of witchcraft and nature worship, are sweeping across Europe and North America.
Power and Ephra, power of the sun. Power and Ephra, power of the sun.
The Druid orders are full of people from all walks of life, from soap opera stars to doctors, lawyers, dentists and toilet cleaners. Anybody can be a Druid.
I'm standing on Primrose Hill, which is one of the sacred sites in London. And it was here that the Druid order was inaugurated in its last, most recent cycle in 1717, when a number of Druids from Wales and Scotland and Ireland and Brittany and England came together, and it is here that some of the ceremonies are held.
Samhain was seen as a time when the dividing line between the dead and the living was at its thinnest. Consequently, contact with spirit beings was thought to be easiest. Samhain was also one of the major fire festivals of the Celts. At this time, the Druidic priesthood led the people in diabolical worship ceremonies in which they would sacrifice animals and humans in ritual killings.
Human sacrifice has absolutely no place in the modern
Stonehenge.
tradition. Just because we see a pagan revival doesn't mean that we wish to go back to barbarism of any sort. So it's a bit of a red herring. It's not something we like to talk about.
The name for Druids is believed to come from the Greek word drus, meaning oak. Druids usually select groves of oaks for their ceremonies and use the leaves in their sacred rites.
The work of the Druids consists in reuniting us with the world of nature externally and internally with that stream of ancient...
Doesn't this look familiar?
The work of the Druids
I'm pretty sure
consists in
we've seen this
reuniting
somewhere
us
before,
with
right?
the world of nature externally.
We've seen that before somewhere.
internally.
Like, you look at stuff like this. Oh, girl dressed just like him. I'm just saying. With the exception of that being a crown, she dressed just like him. Oh, girl is dressed just like him, just like a druid. Oh, girl or oh boy, one of them dressed just like him. I'm just saying. There's a lot of references that's out there as far as what the Statue of Liberty is being referenced to. But our entire society is surrounded by pagan rituals and pagan symbolism and pagan paraphernalia, right? The eagle, even within itself, right? I'm going to give you a mic drop. Go check my old live streams, man, and check out where that eagle symbol come from. Where that come from. Where that eagle, where it comes from. But let's continue.
With that stream of ancient wisdom and knowledge.
Sharing the Druidic tradition of nature worship is witchcraft. The title witch is from the Saxon word wicca, meaning the one who practices sorcery. The Oxford Dictionary states that a Wiccan is one who is twisted, bent, or warped. Despite attempts from modern Wiccans to sanitize the original intention of witchcraft, its practice cannot be divorced from demonology.
And this is what they be doing when they go to them rich people parties, when they putting on the mask and stuff like that. It's all the same.
O guardians of the watchtower of the east, I, Ishtar, high priestess and witch, do summon and stir thee. I command thy presence at this our meeting, to guard over our circle and to witness our rights.
Look, she wearing something similar to the Statue of Liberty. Look, she's standing. I'm just trying to say, y'all. I'm just trying to say it, man.
So mote it be.
So mote it be.
More or less, man. Let's go into the article, man. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it because that we watched that entire video. I could make that entire video the entire live stream, right? But I just feel like reading about certain things just adds a lot more context, right? We could watch it and see it with our own two eyes, but to see the documents just goes to show, right? The paper trail. This is how real it is. So what does it say? The truth about Halloween. The fall season is strikingly beautiful this time of year. As the sun wanes, harsh weather looms on the horizon, and many plants die or become dormant. Foliage changes its appearance, stirring up stunning atmosphere filled with shades of yellow, red, brown, and green. During this unique time, a strange ritual of behavior takes place. Millions of people adorn their surroundings with images of witches. Black cats, even though black cats are actually a symbol that comes from our ancient ancestry, right? It's not always a bad thing, black cats, but let's continue to see what they say. Skeletons, ghosts, monsters, and spiders. Many will masquerade as devils, fairies, and ghouls. They attend parties as children parade through neighborhoods, knocking on doors, declaring trick or treat, expecting to receive candy or a gift. But is Halloween something Christians should observe? Where did this holiday come from? Why would the hideous imagery with the dominant theme of witchcraft and death? Right? Should Christians observe this holiday? The fact that that's a question within itself for Christians, right? It's crazy. Right? If you ask me, most religions now are surrounded by paganism. Right? That's because it's being accepted. Right? But once upon a time, these things were not entirely accepted, and that's why they considered these people to be like heathens or like pagans or witches or demons, because they weren't following the word of the one and only true God. Right? The one and only true God don't want us cutting people's wrists and feet and drinking their blood and whatever the case may be. That's bogus. Right? I can't even see myself doing something similar to that. Digging up Halloween's roots. Few realize that our modern day Halloween celebrations can be traced to ancient times long before the birth of Christ. The earliest accounts of its observance reveal that it was pagan Celts who linked the waning sun and declining fruitfulness with the chills of a lifeless grave. A religious mythology developed and gave rise to pagan priests known as Druids, like they were just talking about. Historians Ralph and Adeline Linton wrote, so Druids are Celts. The earliest Halloween celebrations were held by the Druids in honor of Samhain, remember that name, Lord of the Dead, whose festival fell on November 1st. The Druid festivals has been reviewed and documented by many authors. As Reader's Digest wrote, October 31st, the eve of November 1st, was the last night of the year in the ancient Celtic calendar and was celebrated as the end of summer and its fruitfulness. It was a festival that the Celts of Northern Europe marked with bonfires to help the sun through the winter, right? A lot of this is also associated and linked to sun worship. Yo, amen. How can I'm gonna pin that one. Amen. Ain't like, yo, we gotta get this chat bussing, man. These viewers, we gotta get more people in these lives, man. Tell a friend to tell a friend if you're watching, man. But let's continue. Winter also called to mind the chill and blackness of the grave, and so it was a time when ghosts would walk and supernatural spirits, warlocks, and witches would hold their reveals. The reveals held by ancient pagans during this season were strange indeed. They were dark, superstitious rituals focusing on mystical creatures and spirits of the dead. Though many now jest during the festivities of Halloween, the ancient ceremonies were not a laughing matter, right? Many people jested. Y'all look like clowns, right? Jest. Y'all look like clowns. Jesters, clowns. But this is nothing to laugh at. They involved elements of terror, murder, and reverence for ghosts that supposedly roamed the earth during this time. As Dorothy Gladys Spicer wrote, to ancient Druids, the end of October commemorated the festival of the waning year, when the sun began his downward course and then ripened grain was garnered from the fields. Samhain, the Lord of the Dead, or Summer's End, right? Summer's End, Samhain, as this feast to the dying sun was celebrated with human sacrifices, augury, and for those who don't know what this is, we're going to define it. Augury is a Greco-Roman religion practice of observing behavior of birds to receive omens. Right, when birds like crows flying in certain directions and whatnot is giving certain messages to the people, right? This is a lot similar to when the Inca got the message from the hawk and the snake, right? Of the snake killing the hawk. That was an omen that the Incan Empire was going to be in decline, right? That all is associated with these paganistic, sun worshiping, human sacrificing, demigod believing, probably didn't wipe their ass with toilet paper, probably used their hands and then smelt it after type of folks. It was celebrated with human sacrifice, augury, and prayers. For at this season spirits walked and evil had power over souls of men. Not until the 4th century did the pagan vigil for the gods of light give way to All Hallows. Right? All Hallows, like Sis said in the comments, this is the original name for Halloween, right? The original name is really Samhain, right? But then we gonna call it All Hallows, right? The Mass for Christian saints. And not until the 10th did the Druids' death feast become All Souls, the day of prayer for souls that had entered rest. Cakes for the dead were substituted for human sacrifice. Fortune telling for heathen augury, lighted candles for the old Baal fires, right? Baal, the Baal, right? For those who know, you know, they dedicated this to Baal. They dedicated this to the human sacrifice, right? Like I said, they use words like Christians at that time, or Muslims at that time, or even maybe Jews at that time would refer to these people as heathens. But another fun fact, and people don't know this, but most religions, both Jew, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, they all accepted some sort of paganism at one point of time, right? Christianity would have never became a thing if it wasn't for Greek pagans getting involved in the Hebrew Jewish religion, right? Once they got involved, the rise of Christianity came about, and then you had the development of different factions. Around this time, we right before the Inquisition, right before the Inquisition, but the rise of religion, you know, it stems technically from paganism, right? Even the structures of how most things are built, and I'm talking about these mosques, or some churches, not all, some mosques, some churches, not all, are Greco style, right? Greco-Greek Roman style, right? And they build those basically to replicate, right? To replicate the same houses of worship that the ancients used in the past. People know what they be doing. Folks know what they be doing. And behind closed doors, a lot of things go down that people would not expect. Right? But be prepared for this. This is why you have some churches, right, openly accepting to the LGBTQ community, right, or openly accepting to transgenders. I'm not going to go too much into that because to each his own, but this is why they accept it, right? They accept these things. We could talk about the Church of Scientology, right? But I might get shot from a mile away, so I ain't going to do that. Right? Let's just say though, man, all of this stuff, like I said, is all connected one way, shape, or form. But anywho, it says, through the depraved ceremonies of ancient pagans, morphed into seemingly less wicked practices, the traditions retain such themes as witches, demons, sorcery, monsters, and wandering spirits. It seems that the only element removed from the original observance was that of human sacrifice. Divination and superstitious enchantments continue to dominate the celebration, right? And the human sacrifice, why did that get removed? Well, like I just said, these religions, right, they mixing in and they putting a stop to certain things. Like the Inca, when they went into South America and met up with the human sacrificing peoples of that land, they put a stop to all that, right? They put a stop to all that, but people were still worshiping their jolly old holidays, right? Those things remained the same. Yeah, we could definitely get that done, sis. I'm trying to tell you. We got smoke for 40 years. For 40 years. I'm 28 now. I won't stop until I'm 68. Mark my words. And at that point, I'm pretty sure we're going to find out more. Right? But listen. It says, oh yeah, because the only thing they removed was human sacrifice, right? But all of the other superstitions and enchantments and all of that stuff, it still exists. And it still exists till this day. It takes little effort to trace them to the ancient pagan observance known as Samhain. This was a day celebrating the turn from the summer, and this celebration began in the evening. In fact, the night of October 31st is still called Oche Shamhana in Ireland and Odichi Shamhana in Scotland. Both of these expressions are translated as Samhain Eve. November 1st is known as La Shamhana in both Ireland and Scotland, meaning Samhain Day. The reason it began the evening prior is noted by James Napier, who explained, the northern nations, like the Hebrews, began their day in the evening. Thus we have Yule Eve and Hallow Eve, Halloween, the evenings preceding their respective feasts. The name Halloween is of Christian origin, but the feast itself is hidden in ancient mythology, Western Scottish folklore, this being the ancient Druid mythology. But peep, right? If the Christian origin of the name is Halloween, this only just proves my statement, right? You got pagans and Christians getting involved with one another. Christians now celebrate the holiday, and then the holiday now receives a name. Oh, all right, look at that. For those who don't know of it now, check out We Call BS Podcast YouTube channel. She did a video on why divination became a huge thing in America. Go check that out. Very informative, right? You could learn a thing or two. Shoot, I gotta go watch it myself now. But this only just means that these folks just got involved with one another. Christians adopted the holiday, and now it's a worldwide celebrated thing amongst Christian societies. Not all Christians celebrate Halloween, right? Not all, right? But for those who do, this is basically the explanation behind that right there. Do they even know what they're celebrating? Right? They wouldn't even know what they're celebrating. Right, and then you have that. You got to ask that question at that point. Are you truly dedicated to your God? If you can openly celebrate a holiday like this, which is a slap in the face to the Most High Himself, are you truly dedicated to your religion? Right? That's the only question that remains for us to ask at this point. Right, Samhain was considered to be the first time when a door to the supernatural world was opened for fairies and the dead to communicate with humans. Right, we should never be opening doors to communicate with the dead. Right, they're in a whole different realm. That's why they say now don't watch scary movies or don't do certain things. Right, don't play with Ouija boards, stuff like that. You're opening doors to entities you do not understand. Humans are not meant to communicate with the dead. The dead are meant to be respected, right? Pay tribute and go on about your day, right? However, Samhain was essentially a festival for the dead. It is morbid. It is a morbid holiday with a long history of dark and mystical customs. Down through the ages, Samhain has spawned numerous superstitious activities, such as you can hear their destiny in the wind at the crossroads at that night. Making a circuit of torches around your fields on this eve will ensure fertility. Right? That's something that we could even connect to the Ishtar, the Easter, right? Pagan ritual. Leading sheep to pass through a hoop of rowan tree will ward off witches and fairies. A girl who sows hemp seeds over 9 ridges of a plow while repeating an enchantment can look over her shoulder and see an image of her future husband. Watch out, fellas. Watch out. Dropping egg whites in a bowl of water will allow one to see how many children they can have. If a man crawls under the tendrils of a blackberry bush, he will see the shadow of a girl he will marry. Bobbing for apples can also determine who will be married that year. Washing a chimsy and hanging it on a chair will yield the image of your future husband. Look at all of this superstitious stuff. This untrue superstitious stuff. Right? They got people looking stupid. Right? Even though it looks fun, I ain't gonna lie, it's stupid. Right? All of it is stupid. It's all superstition. Roasting nuts side by side in a fire will foretell peace or hostility between friends. Baking cakes for the dead will quell a potential hostile rendezvous with evil spirits. Boiling eggshells will purge changelings placed in your midst by demons. Taking a walk with 9 grains of oat in your mouth will cause you to hear the name of your future spouse. Going crazy. What are they talking about? This is only an abbreviated list of the numerous pagan superstitions associated with this holiday. As the unholy Roman Empire conquered heathen communities, rather than outlaw such practices, the organization that became known as the Catholic Church absorbed them by adding their own twist to a variety of pagan celebrations. Boom. Boom, right there. The Catholic Church picked up on it and was like, all right, we're going to add our own little twist. Like, we're going to keep this thing jumping, but we're going to add our own little twist. And they said that what they did was they began to teach the spirits of those who die are in a place called a purgatory. And these spirits could be assisted in a passage to heaven on the day of Samhain. Now, is this telling people that they can walk with the dead to heaven? They can assist the dead on reaching heaven? Right? What kind of message is that? That is diabolical. Diabolical. Right, listen, this festival of the Catholic Church is set apart for those who, although they have not suffered martyrdom or achieved sainthood, have died in the faith. It is dedicated particularly to those who have passed away during the preceding year and whose souls can be helped on their journey through purgatory by the prayers of the faithful. There's widespread belief that the spirits of the dead return to visit their former homes on one particular day of the year. Most of the pre-Christian cults celebrated a Day of the Dead. Many of the pagan attitudes towards this day have been retained. Many of the pagan attitudes towards this day have been retained. Like, do you guys hear what they're talking about? Just think about it. Many are being retained. What are you saying? What kind of madness is that? I don't understand. I don't understand. Why would you want to celebrate stuff like this? Right? Most would consider such beliefs akin to fairy tales, and yet people have managed to retain various elements of these ungodly practices. They have managed to retain various elements of these ungodly practices. However, it must be understood that all of them are doctrines of devils. It should be mentioned that all these Irish superstitions of Halloween to be successful had to be accompanied by an appeal to the evil one, in words too diabolical to repeat. According to an old Irish book, the Irish superstitions differ from those in England and Scotland, for Ireland holds, or rather held, that Halloween is an evil night. Right? The idea that Halloween is an evil night is nothing new. In fact, with all of the dark and frightening imagery, ghouls, witches, and the obvious identification with death, it should be clear to everyone, it is truly a devil's holiday. Boom! If y'all like that beat, I made that myself, man. Copper Colored Beats, we go crazy, man. Copper Colored Productions. But yeah, right? It's a devil's holiday, y'all. Halloween is a devil's holiday. There's no escaping that, right? It should be clear to everyone that is a devil's holiday. Everyone, it should be clear. I don't know why it's not. Right? Lift the veils, you blind bats. Wake up and smell the tea. Right? Or y'all too laced off the Don Julio and spray packs. I don't understand. Right? Still, many continue to enjoy the wicked rituals of Samhain as if they are harmless entertainment. Yo, man, listen. Like I said, to be entertained. Are you entertained? Are you? Right? Was today enough for you and your children? Did you enjoy it? I hope you did. I hope you did, because you guys are the reason why stuff like this is still alive. People say, well, why don't we live in a world like a more peaceful world? Like, people like to say, oh, what's wrong with the world, or why is the world so negative or so evil? It's because we are continuing to let it remain that way. At the end of the day, we all have a choice, and the choices we make dictate the future. So if we want to change the future, make better choices. One of the greatest things I learned after turning 28 years old. But let's continue, right? All Hallows Eve, or All Halloween, with this tradition of witches, ghosts, hobgoblins, and spirits, its games and incantations, still is a gay time for pranks and parties in many North Country homes. Fun-loving Americans have borrowed from their British ancestors many Halloween games such as apple bobbing, nut roasting, and tossing of apple parings. Transplanted to the New World soil, the old practices have become revitalized and currently are observed with more enthusiasm than in the country of their birth. Basically saying the stuff like this, right? The games, the Halloween games, and I'm pretty sure the rituals for some folks, right, were revitalized once it came to America, right? And then it was celebrated more over here than it was over there, right? Masquerading and trick-or-treating. The pagan beliefs that spirits rise from the grave and roam the earth on the evening prior to November 1st led to all kinds of superstitious behavior. This is noticed by Francis X. Weiser, who wrote, "Our pagan forefathers kept several Coat of the Dead rites at various times of the year. One of these periods was the great celebration at the end of fall and the beginning of winter. Together with the practices of nature and demon lore, fires, masquerades, and fertility cults, they also observed the ritual of the dead with many traditional rites. The traditional rites of this time were numerous. Perhaps the most popular was masquerading as a monstrous creature. But why? Why do people put on costumes? During Samhain, pagans thought that the ghosts and evil spirits mingled with the living. Because people believed that supernatural beings could bring harm to mortals, this was a fearful time for many. Alexander MacGregor did extensive research in the late 19th century regarding superstitious beliefs of druids, witches, sorry, had to get the TikTok right. For druids, witches, and many pagan people of ancient times, and wrote, "It was the night above all others, when supernatural influences prevailed. It was the night for the universal walking abroad of all sorts of spirits, fairies and ghosts, all of whom had liberty on that night. Fearing injury, townsfolk did many things to appease the spirits, right? They did things to appease these walking dead. History reveals that this began with the Druids, who on the eve of Samhain had a procession led by a man in a white robe wearing a horse head mask. The horse was sacred to the sun god, further indicating that this custom was a survival of the Druid rites based on their worship of the sun and seasons. The parade levied a contribution of butter, eggs, corn, potatoes, and other produce from the farmers. Unless the procession was treated liberally with gifts, the farmers would be tricked by a curse that would ruin next year's crop. This practice eventually led into another form of trickery, trick or treat, as Weiser continued. Another and more important tradition is the Druidic belief that during the night of November 1st, demon witches and evil spirits roam the earth in wild, furious gambols of joy to greet the arrival of their season. The long nights and early dark of the winter months, they had their fun with the poor mortals that night, frightening, harming them, and playing all kinds of mean tricks, right? When you're dressing up, what are you doing? You're portraying to be a demon or evil spirit or the witch or that's roaming the earth, playing tricks. The only way it seemed for scared humans to escape the persecution of the demons was to offer them things they liked, especially dainty foods and sweets. Cook them. So basically, when you wear that costume, you are the demon or evil spirit, playing the games and tricking people and scaring people. And the only way people could rock with you is if they give you foods and sweets. In other words, they will be scared. Again, if you knew all of this, would you celebrate? I'm a God-fearing man. 100%. Ain't no way I'm teaching my kids to live like this. No way. I don't care how much fun they think they having or what they see other kids doing. That's the problem. We can all be leaders, but everybody want to be a follower. We are living in a world where we can all be leaders, but everyone wants to be a follower. See, one of the things I learned growing up in the streets was to not be a follower. Because when I did, I watched all of these bad things happen to me and to the people around me right before my very eyes. And it wasn't pretty. None of it is pretty. None of it looks good or feels good. Right? You want to be a leader. Again, if you knew this, would you celebrate? Let's continue. Right. Or, in order to escape the fury of these horrible creatures, a human could disguise himself as one of them and join in their roaming. Oh, Lord. So if you want to roll, you can roll with them. Right? They open the door for you to roll with them. The evil spirits. Come on, come join us. Right? That's how you could get away from these things. Right? Now, these are the ancient beliefs and teachings of the holiday. Right? The reason why we don't see it this way no more is because it's just become a profit machine, a money making machine. However, these people who bask in this holiday still get joy from watching us, partake in these events. Right? It's like pawns on the chessboard. The kings, queens, and all the other pieces behind us can move whatever way they want, but the pawns can only go forward and back, and we have to follow one another. Because if we step out of line, well, we made a wrong move. Right? This is the truth. This is the truth. Listen. In this way, they would take him for one of their own, and he would not be bothered. That is what people did in ancient times. And it is this very form the custom has come down to us, practically unaltered. As our own familiar Halloween celebration, it is practically unaltered. Unaltered. Nothing changed. Nothing changed. The horrible mass of demons, witches, the disguised in strange and unusual gowns, the ghost figures, the frightening gestures and words, the roaming through the streets at night, the pranks played, and finally, the threatening demand of a trick or treat. Trick or treat. In fear of wandering demons and ghosts, many designed hideous masks so that they would not be recognized and attacked. Some believed that spirits would leave a person alone if they tricked them by dressing as an evil creature. Others thought that frightening costumes would ward off these ghosts. As we can see, our modern activity of masquerading and trick-or-treating is inextricably, I don't even know how to pronounce that word, but let's just act like I said it right, tied to this pagan rite. Our modern activity of masquerading and trick-or-treating is inextricably tied to this pagan rite. The treat part of this holiday came from attempts to buy off evil spirits by presenting them with gifts. Some actually believe spirits possess various animals and that these imprisoned beings could be released by giving gifts or tribute to the Lord of the Dead, to the Lord Samhain. Napier wrote of this, stating, "There was a prevailing belief among all nations that at death the souls of good men were taken possession by good spirits and carried to paradise, but the souls of the wicked men were left to wander in the space between the earth and moon, or consigned to the unseen world. These wandering spirits were in the habit of haunting the living, especially their relations, so that the living were surrounded on every side by the spirits of their wicked ancestors, who were always at hand tempting them to evil. However, there were means by which these ghosts might be exorcised. Right? They had to perform exorcisms to get the ghosts up out the people. It was believed that one way to exorcise spirits was to present them with treats. Because the souls of the dead were thought to return to their original homes and visit relatives, people would set out food as a form of treat. These included dainties, sweets, and cakes of bread, which came to be called soul cakes. If satisfied, the spirits would leave in peace. If not, they would cast spells and cause absolute havoc to the inhabitants of the home. If the kids ain't happy with the candy, they egg in the crib. Right? Kids, we used to egg the crib back in the day when we used to celebrate. Me and my fellas. We egging cribs. If you ain't got candy, we egging your spot. Now, how ironic is that? How ironic is that? That is very, very ironic, right? Just repeating the pagan rituals without even knowing it. Right? Eventually, because of their beliefs that spirits were able to possess people and animals, all callers to any particular home were given a treat. The Encyclopedia of Superstition states that it was believed by Catholics of medieval times, and the superstitions became general throughout Europe, that on this day the dead returned and for a time lingered among the living kin. Throughout the country, as late as the end of 19th century, soul cakes were baked and given to all callers at house. Peasants spent the day a souling, proceeding from one house to another. Now, they just said that they celebrated over here way more than they celebrated in Europe. Then we just read that. So let's just add this on to that list. of pagan celebrations that exist in America to this day. From this practice developed the tradition of trick-or-treating, as Spicer wrote. In a popular sense, soul case today means apples, money, goodies of any kind. These things are given to the soulers who make village rounds on All Souls Eve, November 1st, October 31st. Right, this is where the practice of trick-or-treating came from. The belief that evil tricks could be suppressed by the exchange of a treat gave rise to the expression trick or treat. Give me a treat, I'm going to trick you and scare you and cast a spell, whatnot. If a particular home did not present a gift to callers, they would risk having a dirty trick played on them. The superstitious tradition was later brought to America, where it caused waves of vandalism that was not tamed until the 1950s. They brought it over here and folks started vandalizing, like partaking in heinous crimes and demonic activities and damn near robbing people, showing up to folks' porches with clown masks, kicking in doors and doing a whole bunch of things, right? That's essentially practicing in this trick or treat. Like I said, me and my friends, we egged the cribs. We egged them. Right? This is us engaging in that pagan activity. This is all facts. What was once something greatly feared has transformed itself into fun and games. However, the present practice of trick-or-treating is nothing less than a continuation of degenerate and absurd customs which originated with the pagan druids. These practices were wicked then and are still evil to this day. Right? They're going to talk about jack-o'-lanterns now. After jack-o'-lanterns, they're going to go into the black cats. Right? We got a lot more to cover, so sit tight. We're going to get through this, right? Sit tight. Let's talk about it. So jack-o'-lanterns, right? Jack-o'-lanterns are the trademark of Halloween. It is the carved pumpkin. It is known as a jack-o'-lantern. It can now be seen annually in a variety of shapes, sizes, and designs. However, this tradition is also of heathen origin, right? The Halloween lantern, made from a hollowed out pumpkin or turnip with a candle inside it, is a relic from the days when food offerings were made to the spirits of the dead. Ooh, big drop, right? The jack-o'-lanterns is basically the tribute to the spirit of the dead, right? Every time you put those on your porch, you carrying a tribute for the spirit to the dead, right? In ancient times, many people carved frightening faces into produce and put small candles inside them to scare away wandering spirits on the eve of Samhain. These lanterns will be placed outside the doors of hopes in the hopes that ghosts will not attempt to enter the dwelling. In addition to this superstitious tradition, there is a Celtic tale regarding the origin of the lantern's name. It is said that a man named Jack played dishonest tricks on the devil, thereby escaping the fires of hell. However, after Jack died, God would not allow such an unsavory figure into heaven. The devil was so upset by Jack's trickery that he sent Jack off into the dark night with only a burning coal to light his way. Jack put the coal into a carved out turnip and has been roaming the earth ever since. So the jack-o'-lantern is a dead man. The Irish began to refer to this figure as the Jack of the Lantern, which led to the simplified Jack-o'-lantern. In Ireland and Scotland, people made their own versions of Jack's lantern by carving faces into turnips or potatoes to frighten away wandering spirits. In England, large beets are used. Immigrants brought this tradition to America and soon found that pumpkins make perfect jack-o'-lanterns. So it wasn't even the pumpkin that was being first used, right? First, they was using what they said, they was carving it into the turnip. I'm gonna kill that damn dog. It was carved into a turnip. Nah, I'm just joking though, y'all. But yeah, carved into a turnip. The Irish began to refer to this figure as Jack of the Lantern, which led to the simplified Jack-o'-lantern. In Ireland and Scotland, people made their own versions of Jack's lantern by carving faces into turnips or potatoes to frighten away wandering spirits. Like, this wasn't even something practiced by our ancient ancestors over here on this side, right? This was brought over with the colonizers. So this isn't even aboriginal to the American mainland, right? It's not aboriginal to where our ancestors come from, at least that side. Now, some of our ancestors brought this over here with them, but things change, you know, things change, right? Things change. We start to turn this into a joke or a game, right? We having fun with it now, right? We doing stuff that don't really look too good, you know, don't look too good. While this mythical tale might seem like harmless entertainment, we must realize that its history actually unveils a demonic past. As Linton explained, Halloween did not find a place on the American calendar of holidays until after the Gaelic people began to arrive on these shores, right? Halloween did not find a place on the American calendar of holidays until Gaelic folks showed up here in America. With them came the Catholic observance, or All Hallows and All Souls, and also the folklore about which still clung shreds of the ancient vigil of Samhain and the Halloween sports of the fairy folk. These later colonists began the custom of holding gatherings at the farmhouses on the night of October 31st. That's tonight. Right? Since this was the time when apples and nuts were ripe, these two delicacies were an important feature of such parties. The participants played the traditional divination games with nuts on the hearth, ducked for apples, threw apple peelings over their shoulders to determine the initials of future bridegrooms, and indulged in other folk customs from the old country. They also discovered the American pumpkins were excellent for making jack-o'-lanterns, and these carved pumpkin faces became traditional for Halloween. Right now they go into the black cat. Now the black cat, I'm not going to throw a cap on this because they gonna say, you know, that they were superstitions and, you know, a lot of stuff that is linked to ancient Egyptian mythology. But we have our own mythology connected to the black cat here in America, which also somehow, some way connects to ancient Egyptian mythology. This is where the black cat crossing you is a bad omen comes from, though. This is where it comes from. It comes from the Celtic Druids, right? But look, it was also thought that a strange black cat on your porch would bring prosperity, and to kill a cat of any sort would bring 17 years of bad luck. In fact, the cat was worshipped in Egypt, and killing one in that nation was once a capital crime, right? Like I said, right? The cat was worshipped as a deity, right? In most civilizations. But let's read this part, right? This part looks a little interesting. This concept of the cat as a sinister and magical animal goes back to ancient times. The Egyptians worshipped the cat as a deity. In the legends of Greece and Rome, a woman who had been changed into a cat was chosen as priestess by Hecate, the goddess of sorcery and the patron of witches. Right, so in Egypt, the cat is a good sign. But in Greece, right, if you was changed into a cat, you were changed into a cat and you were chosen by this priestess. This priestess was the goddess of sorcery and the patron of witches. So you fear the cat in this situation. Right? Look, check this. But during the witch persecutions, the cats were tortured and killed along with their mistresses. Probably the cat was associated with the witch because cats are the frequent companions of strange, lonely old women who are likely to be regarded as witches. right? We see a lot of that, a lot of old women with a lot of cats, right? Could they be witches? I won't necessarily say that, right? Because I'm with the Egyptians on this one. Black cats, stuff like that may not be a bad omen, but according to the Druids, Scots, ancient pagans, yep, it's a sign that the person that the cat is dwelling with is a witch, right? And this comes from the Halloween traditions of that time. Right now, what else we got? How did Samhain become a Christian holiday? Few celebrants realize that Halloween, right, the holiday was given its name by professing Christian church. It is actually pronounced Halloween and means hollow or holy evening, as Dobler explained, like holiday or holy day. Halloween, all the same thing. It is a date noted on the calendar of both the Roman Catholic Church and the Anglican Protestant Episcopal Church in memory of the holy ones of all days whose names are only known by God. Understanding the dark nature of Samhain and our modern Halloween celebrations, it is clear that this evening is far from holy. How did we arrive at such strange mixture of Christian terms and pagan religious rites? How? Edwin and Mona Radford explain the transition in their Encyclopedia of Superstitions. Like most of these Christian feasts, it is a survival of a much earlier pagan feast. Right? Most holidays are survivals of earlier pagan feasts. In this case, the pagan festival of the dead. The early Christian church, unable to suppress it and keep their converts, connived at it, but gave to it a religious turn. Samhain was widespread throughout key areas of Europe. As the Holy Roman Empire began to move from east to west, the church believed it had a God-given mission to convert the conquered territories to Christianity. Same plan when they came over here, right? The plan ain't changed. They just brought it over here with them. However, the people of these pagan nations refused to abandon their traditions. As a result, the apostate church compromised the clear commands of the Bible. They allowed these converts to retain many of their beloved holidays while attempting to make them appear Christian, right? You could practice what you want, but you gotta show as a Christian. It's like with the crypto Jews. They told them they couldn't worship what they wanted. And they had to practice Christianity. So these folks was worshiping their stuff behind closed doors. However, the pagans were allowed to openly worship their Halloween. This is crazy. This was accomplished by simply changing names and redefining the meaning of their symbols. Therefore, the ancient mythological celebration of the dead was simply renamed by the Roman Church to honor dead saints. Douglas explains this in his work titled The American Book of Days. The mystic rites and ceremonies with which Halloween was originally observed had their origin among the Druids centuries before the dawn of the Christian era. In their celebration on the eve of the festival of Samhain, the early Christian church adopted the eve and the day following and gave new names to them, as it did with many other non-Christian observances. And how did they do this? Well, like I said, this all comes connected with conquering a nation, right? If you conquer a group of people, then as the conqueror, you now get to choose what people want to worship, what they would, what they would like to worship, what they choose to worship. You now become the ruler of that right? It's just like here in America, right? They came over here and got most of the tribe folks to stop worshiping the stuff that they was worshiping. And for some folks over here, like the serpent worshiping tribes, it was easy to convert them because the religions were almost identical. But as far as conquering, when you conquer a nation, you also assimilate and conquer everything else that comes with it. The language, the people, the way folks dress, all of that. Why you think dudes like wearing tight jeans and stuff like that now, right? We were conquered by Europeans. Folks want to dress like Europeans. So, more or less, right? It says, this adoption by the Catholic Church is also noted by Linton, who wrote, in Britain, horses were sacrificed at the feast of Samhain as late as 400 AD. Even after the Christians had taken over the pagan temples and consecrated them to worship of the Christian God, oxen continued to be sacrificed on Hollow Mass, sometimes being led down the church aisle to the altar. Like I just told y'all. What did I say? I tell no lies. I tell no lies. Right, they took over the temples. However, right, they still continued to practice the Hollow Mass. Right, the sacrifices, they still continued to practice it. Which means them same druids that they conquered became Christians. Like, I've even witnessed this in video games. Folks fighting, they get conquered by one group, and now everybody's practicing the same thing. That's crazy though, right? Look how, this is how things work in our world. Sometimes it makes me ask the question, like, what is religion? Right? As long as you got a connection to the Most High, what is religion? It's man-made. Right? Look, a pagan form of Christianity was on the rise and was not only condoned by the Roman Church, it was encouraged. It was encouraged. A pagan form of Christianity was condoned and encouraged. Right? This is confirmed by the classic historian Bede, who documented a letter from Pope Gregory to the abbot Mellitus in 601 AD. In this letter, the Pope expressed his desire for the pagans to keep their practices, while simply redefining a reason for observing them. He wrote, the temples of the idols in that nation ought not to be destroyed, but let the idols that are in them be destroyed. And because they have been used to slaughter many oxen in the sacrifices to devils, some solemnity must be exchanged for them on this account. And no more offer beasts to the devil, but kill cattle to the praise of God. And essentially, it's the same thing. Because the Most High ain't want us doing this anyway. So, the idols in the nation can stay, but the ones in the temple, pack them up. We're going to replace them with ours, but let everything remain the same. It all means the same thing. It's no longer the devil, but God. We sacrificing to God now, not the devil. However, it's still a pagan form of Christianity. So are you truly dedicating it to the devil? To God. Right? This was the general practice of the quote-unquote Holy Roman Empire, to convert pagans as quickly as possible. This is the same stuff they did here in America. That's the same exact stuff. Right? From the time of Constantine, who made Christianity the state religion, the pagan traditions were appropriated for use in order to encourage conversion by those who were deeply tied to their heathen activities. To do this, the names of false gods was changed to those of Christ, Mary, and the saints. Consider the words of Linton, who wrote, All Saints' Day was introduced into the church calendar, because the year was not long enough to make it possible to dedicate a special day for each saint of the Catholic Church. That the day chosen was one already associated in the popular mind with the thronging of spirits of the dead, was quite in line with church policy of incorporating harmless pagan folk ideas. Right? As a result of this heretical policy, we can see their actions were far from harmless. Their strategy directly violates several of the 10 Commandments and has caused billions of people to sin against God. And we conclude that right there, y'all. There's more information that we can give with that. Matter of fact, let's give this last part. The exact year that All Hallows or All Saints Day was substituted for the pagan Samhain is uncertain. Some believe it was declared by Pope Gregory in the 6th century AD. Others think that it was Pope Gregory III, 731 to 741 AD. Others believe it was introduced by Pope Boniface in 615 AD and transferred by Pope Gregory the Fourth 100 years later. Regardless of the confusion regarding these dates, the Catholic Church and much of the world still observe this celebration. And no matter how hard men have tried to whitewash the day, shreds of old pagan superstitions stubbornly cling to Halloween. Right. And I don't want to go too crazy, because they go crazy, right? Look. Right, look. What else they got? We know who the Lord of the Dead is already. But what they got to say, right? Like the Greeks and Romans who conjured up many gods linked to seasons, animals, planets, and constellations, the ancient Druids did likewise, all pagans. For example, their passion for the rites associated with Samhain or Summer's End ultimately led to the creation of a deity related to the dying flora, right, to the death of vegetation. Because the festival was centered on death, Samhain was personified and given the title Lord of the Dead. As historian Ralph Linton wrote, the American celebration rests upon Scottish and Irish folk customs, which can be traced in different lines from pre-Christian times. Although Halloween has become a night of frolicking fun, superstitious spells and eerie games that people take on only half seriously, its beginnings were quite otherwise. The earliest Halloween celebrations were held by the Druids in honor of Samhain, Lord of the Dead, whose festivals fell on November 1st. The Celtic order of the Druids originated in the Gaul about the 2nd century BC. By that time, the Gauls had had a good deal of contact with the Greeks, right? A transaction of cultures, Gauls and Greeks, right? And a lot of these people, swarthy, copper-colored, can't forget, right? But these pagans transferring information, and the order may have been molded on some of the Greek mystery religions, just like every other religion, right? They're picking up off the Greeks because they introduced man-made religion. However, its rites also included many savage and primitive elements. The Celtic people sprang from the same ancient Indo-European stock as the Greeks and Romans and worshipped many of the same gods and goddesses, although these deities had different names. In addition to honoring Minerva, Apollo, and Mars, the Celts also worshipped the sun god, whose horse was sacred, and Samhain, Lord of the Dead. Right? All gods they worshiping, all similar. Check what they say about this, right? The Bible explains that Satan had deceived the whole world. To one degree or another, everyone has been deceived by him. This truth is evident in the universal observance of Halloween. Though Samhain was the pagan Lord of the Dead, this holiday has been observed by nearly every nation on earth. Though its name may vary, Samhain continues with the same theme of death, as Napier wrote. right? A holiday for the dead can be traced to nearly every nation around the globe. For example, in Mexico, it is known as Dia de los Muertos, translated as Day of the Dead. In the book Adonis by Fraser, the Hispanic observance is clearly identified to that of Samhain, not only by its date, but also by its symbolism and rituals. Right, and we got to remember these sun worshippers were heavy in Mexico. Right, it's also in the Philippines, China, Korea, and every country in Europe. So most countries celebrate this Day of the Dead. Most countries that had pagan involvement, right, had some type of pagan involvement. Right, but we can't make this claim with every religion or every society that has dwelt upon this earth. We cannot make that claim. Right, but I'm gonna conclude that there. We're gonna leave it right there. Right, because I think we gave y'all enough information on the pagan origins of the Halloween holiday. Right, that was a good one, and I'm not gonna lie, I'll give myself a pat on the back, because I didn't think I would be able to pull through with explaining something as deep and in depth as this. Right, I'm not even sure if I understood it myself when I was listening and reading it, because I'm like, just wow. Kids is outside dressed up right now as we speak. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. For those who did tune in, man, this was a good one. Another live stream in the books. Got this one out the way for Halloween, just to give y'all an update, just to educate. Like I said, man, everything is to educate, right? And hopefully inspire some people to make the right decision, right? Our ancestors ain't get down like this. And I can almost promise that, because we doing the research, right? We doing the research. Real spill though, bro. I'm telling you, we know copper colored people brought cleanliness to these folk. I can't even say that, right? Because copper colored folks was some of these druids and these pagans, and they were Hebrew Jews, the Greeks. They were Greeks who spoke Hebrew and Hebrews who spoke Greek. Right? The Hebrews were considered to be the poor people. The Greeks were considered to be the rich people. But they all still adopted the religion. So we can't say this is a black people bringing, a black and white thing. Like, nah, like folks in them, they was just dirty, bro. They was just dirty, and they wiped their butts with their hands. Right? Stuff we can't get down with that. Right? We don't associate with that. Shoot, I need unscented natural baby wipes. Natural unscented baby wipes. I use toilet paper, but that's just, for me as a black man, that's just not enough. Man, listen, man. I appreciate y'all, man. Thank you for tuning in. We got another one in the books. We had a good amount of people that finally ended up joining this live on YouTube. Had a couple folks up in TikTok. We got to up these numbers, man. Send the platform or channel to a friend. Send it to your folks that you talk about them conspiracy theories and stuff with, man. We got to get this information out there. I appreciate y'all. Like, comment, and subscribe. Stay in tune for the next one. Let's get it.